Hello, 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 you lot. It's nearly Christmas time. Merry Christmas to you all. Now, I like to try and help as many people as I possibly can throughout all of the year. But I often get a lot of questions around Christmas time because people, just like you, are looking at getting yourself an RC car for Christmas. Or, if you're of the younger species of human beings, you've asked for an RC car from your parents for Christmas, and now you're looking up how to use that RC car. My inbox is more full up than it's ever been this year. It seems Nitro RC is becoming ever more popular. Hopefully one day it will get back to what it was like in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. But anyway, let's focus on the main question that I've been asked over the last few weeks. The carburetor. How do you use it? Was one question. How do you use the carburetor? Well, you don't use the carburetor. The engine uses the carburetor to get its fuel and air delivered. You can adjust how it delivers that fuel and that air with the screws on it. Let me show you. And also, one screw in particular, a lot of people get confused with, and they mistake it for a needle valve, like the high end or the low end or the mid-range needle. They mistake this other needle for a needle. It's not. It's just a stopper screw. That's the tick over screw. It's just a stop. All it does is stops the throttle slide from going all the way in. Let me show you. Come on, get a bit closer and we'll have a closer look at the carburetor on this Hobeo cage truggy. By the way, I would massively recommend you put one of these cage truggies on your Christmas list, because it's one of the best nitro buggies, truggies, cars, whatever, that I've come across over the past 20-25 years. Quite an old design. They've been around for some time now, and they're still making them. And if that don't tell you that it's a good truggy, I don't know what does. That same can be said, by the way, for the HPI Savage. I won't keep going on. I want to show you this, but I want to help you lot. Yeah, make a good choice for your first Nitro RC car, or for one of your, maybe you want to get another one. Maybe you've already got one and you want to get another one. Make a good choice. HPI Savage. There may be some new ones coming out soon. You never know. They still make and sell this Hobeo cage truggy. Have a good old close-up look at them, because you won't be disappointed. Right, you join me again. We're here now. Here is the engine. This is Mach 28, one of the best engines you'll ever come across. Let's take the air filter off so you can see exactly what's going on. One of the most important things with anything, but not just RC cars, is to be able to understand exactly what's going on. And you'll have to bear with me, because I'd forgotten. I had forgotten that was cable tied on, and I always, oh bloody hell, I always cable tie the old air filters on, make sure they don't come off. So let's cut the cable tie. There we go. Now we can take off the air filter. There we go. Get rid of the old cable tie. Let's leave that flapping around down there. Right, now I'll turn it round again so you can see exactly what's going on in the world of carburetors. So, this particular one also has, where are you? Here has a mid-range needle, which is the reason why I picked it, because I can show you the mid-range needle then. But let's focus on what we need to be focusing on. So, here, that's the high-end needle, okay? This needle governs most of what the carburetor does, because the carburetor is essentially a valve in itself. It's got valves within it, but it is a valve. It measures the amount of air going in through this air filter neck, Venturi, this is called a Venturi. Measures the amount of air going in. You can take these ones out, you see. Some of them you can change out. Some of them you can take out and you can change for different sizes. I don't know how many millimeter this particular one is. This is the standard one. It's got no markings on it or anything. But it won't run very well if you run it without it. You can get bigger ones. Bigger ones let more air in. You need to adjust it for more nitro to go in, but you get a bit more power. Smaller ones will have better fuel economy, less power, less air, less fuel. Anyway, the air goes in there, the fuel goes in through that pipe, and as you can see, it's where a lot of people get confused. They don't realise this. But the fuel goes in here, and this is the high-speed needle, the high-end needle. Now, it does primarily control the high end. That meaning the higher, the top end of the rev range. The low end needle is here. It little screw in the side here. That one does control the low revs, the bottom end of the engine, the bottom end of the rev range. But this one will have an influence over the whole rev range, the whole lot. So if you play around with this one and get it to its fairly good acceleration and a good tick over, and then you adjust this one, that one's going to go out of whack. So you always start with the high speed needle first. Play around with that, get it somewhere close, get it somewhere fairly good. It will have an influence over tick over, it'll have an influence over starting, it'll have an influence over low revs and high revs and mid-range revs. The screw here, which I just showed you, is called the mid-range needle. You don't really play around with that. You leave it where it is, flush with the body of the carburetor usually. Just get your finger, run it over it, and see if it's flush. You can't feel it being proud, and you can't feel an indent there. It's flush. That's a good setting for it. But as you start to get a little bit advanced and knowing what the engine is doing, you can turn it in a bit and you get slightly better performance, but really you leave it alone. Now, the one that everybody gets confused with is the tick over screw. On this particular carburetor, some carburetors it's here with a little spring on the outside of it, some it's here with a little spring on the outside of it, but quite a lot of them, they are, if we zoom out, and that's cock. Here, that is the tick over screw. That one there. It is literally a stop. It's just a screw that goes in. It doesn't meter any fuel. It's not a valve. It doesn't have well, it has a seal on it, but that's about it. So as you can see, you may not be able to see, but there is, I'm trying to do the brakes to prove to you, there's a little gap there. A small little gap. You may or may not be able to see it. That's the throttle opening. That's full throttle. See that needle, that thing going across there, that thing going across, that is the low end needle, the low speed needle. It goes all the way in. Some carburetors, it only goes halfway and you can't actually see it, but on this one it's a long needle, it goes all the way through. Now, when you let off the throttle and you go back to tick over, there's a little gap in there because that screw there is stopping that. Look, I can turn this, if I can get the screwdriver on it. Right, I'm going to turn this screw. Well, I would turn it in if I could get the bloody screwdriver on it. Some idiots put the exhaust spring in the wrong in the wrong place. Don't know who that was. Some cock. Right. So I've turned it in a bit. See, there's a gap there now. that gap's bigger, which means that tick over would be really big. That really big, really high. So we can also turn that screw anti-clockwise, which is out, and now that gap goes closed. There'll be no tick over. That would conk out. The minute you was driving away, brum, 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 you let go, engine would stop completely. So that literally is a stopping screw. It goes in there and it hits on that throttle slide, stops it from closing all the way when you've got it turned in. So I'm just going to turn that in another nats. I'm never going to know exactly where I had it, but I'm just going to guess. Around about there somewhere. Anyway, so that's what that one does, okay? Now, if you have that gap too big, you'll end up with what the Americans call, and I think the phrase has come over here as well now, a two-stage idle, right? Basically, the tick over, because there's a lot of air going in, and the mixture's slightly lean on tick over for a little while, the tick over will be high, and it will go, you know, and a lot of people don't like that. I don't really care if it does that or not personally, but it's because that gap is slightly big, or the low end is slightly too lean. So you can richen that up a bit, but really if you just turn that screw anti-clockwise and let that gap go slightly smaller, that will probably go away. Is it something you need to worry about? No. Is it something you need to worry about if you care what other people think about you? Yes. In that case, you can remedy it by turning that screw out a little bit and playing around with that low speed needle. I think that's pretty much everything that I can tell you. These are incredibly simple. A lot of people are scared of these, but it's incredibly simple. There is nothing to think about. Literally, it's as simple as that. If you've got one and it won't start, right, it may be because that gap is too small, so it won't even start. But if you get your transmitter and you just give it a little bit of throttle while you're pulling it, you know, just give it a little bit, hold it open a little bit, it might fire up. And if you let go of it, it goes and conks out again. It's because that gap's too small. Turn that screw in a bit, it'll fire up and tick over. There's a load of stuff I could talk to you about the linkages, but I think we'll leave that. I've done plenty of videos on that. There's plenty of videos on this channel about linkages, throttle linkages and brake linkages. If you want me to do a fresh video, a new video, updated for 2025, well, it'll be nearly 2026, then I can do so. Throttle linkages are a big part of why people have trouble with their engines, and then they just go and start saying that Nitro isn't any good because they never run right. Well, a lot of the reason why they don't run right is because people haven't set them up, and the linkages are a big part of being set up, not just on Nitro but on any engine. If the physical hardware, the physical components aren't set up correctly, the engine won't run properly. But then you get people that say the engine's no good because, well, it ain't running properly. And you just feel like saying to them, learn how to set it up and you'll see that that is a good engine. But anyway, that's why I'm here, to help you set your stuff up properly so that you can enjoy your car with your engine, but also not go spreading false news about products. Because once you learn how they work, you'll find that they're not half as bad as what people say. So I'll talk to you about linkages if needs be, but there are videos on this channel about throttle linkages. There's also videos about carburetors, but yeah. If you've got any questions about your carburetor or a carburetor on your Nitro engine, please comment. Tell me what the question is. Let me know what it is you want to know, and I'll do my best to help you with it. I'll make a video or I'll reply to the comments. And if you do comment, other people can comment as well, and we can all learn together. Other people probably know more than I do. Definitely know more than I do. What else is important? It is obviously important to run an air filter. I've had some people in the comments try to tell other people that you don't need to run an air filter. It's not important to run an air filter. Well, it's extremely important to run an air filter with a nitro car, particularly if you're on road. If it's a boat, that's a different story. But if it's a car, on road or off road, it is important to run an air filter, because even the smallest pieces of dirt will cause a lot of damage to a tiny little engine. Nice air filter, whack it on there, have a nice time. Something to remember: it is okay to start your engine up on the bench and run it on the bench or in the garden briefly without the air filter on, not a problem. But if you go tuning it on your bench, you fire it up, you get it running nicely on the bench with no air filter, and then you put the air filter on it, and then you go down the park and it's running rubbish again. You think, well, I had it running well on the bench, but it's not. Why is it not running well down the park? Well, adding a filter will add restriction to the air going in. So it may be running well without it on, but you're adding restriction which will make it run richer, because there's now less air going in. The engine's having to work harder to suck that air in, but there is the same amount of nitro going in. So it's going to be slightly richer than it is without the filter. So all you do to compensate that is lean it a little bit more. But just remember that. The amount of people I've had contact me over the years saying, it fires up on the bench, it runs lovely. As soon as I get it down on the field, it runs rich. The carburetor's rubbish, the engine's crap, I hate nitro. And then when I say send me a video of what it's doing, on the bench they're firing it up with no air filter on, which is completely fine. But then when they go out on the field, they've got the air filter on it, and they're complaining it's running rich and sluggish. Well, of course, because you've introduced restriction, which will make it run richer. When I say to them, just lean a little bit on that high-end needle, possibly the low as well, and see how it goes when you're in the field. They do that, and they go, wow, it's perfect again. So just a bit of patience, and remember, air filter off, air filter on will run differently. Some cars and engines will be different, some won't have much of a difference, and you think, well, there's no difference, what's he chatting about? Other engines will have a big difference, and you'll think, I can definitely see that difference. So just remember that. Also, something to remember, there are different types and brands of nitro. Now, I know I say quite often on this channel, because I don't really care about it, you can use whatever nitro you want and it won't make a difference to how your engine runs. That's alright if you know what you're doing, but if you're a beginner, as I'm assuming you will be, if you've looked up, if you've searched and you've come across this video, you're probably looking for information on how to run your first nitro car, right? Then you need to remember, just make sure I've got that plugged in, you need to remember that if you buy one brand of nitro fuel to start with when you first get your car, and then you change to a different brand or a different percentage, there is a chance to you as a beginner, as not knowing what your engine is doing, it may run differently to what it was before, and you're probably going to get the ump and go, no, what's the matter with it now? Because that's what people are like these days, very impatient and get angry very quickly. Just remember, all you got to do is tweak the needles a little bit and it will run as good as it was before. 20% Tornado, 25% Optifuel, 25% Shoot, Nitro Lux, 16% in any of them brands. You know, what else is there? There's loads of other ones. Hot Fire, there's, I don't know what brands you get over there in America and all that. What are the other brands? They've gone out my head, I can't think what they are, but there's loads of different brands of nitro fuel floating around out there, depending on what country you're in. VP Fuels is another one, I think, in Malaysia and Singapore and Canada and America. Can't get that in England. I'd love to try it, but I can't find it in England. I can get it here, but it costs like £600 in postage for one bloody 5 litre can of it, which I ain't paying. So that's ridiculous. So Yeah, whatever you buy, as a beginner, I would suggest to you to stick to the same brand. But if you have no choice, and the shop that you're buying it from has changed brands, or they don't sell the brand that you had been buying, or whatever, it's not the end of the world. It really doesn't matter. Just get what you're going to get. Just be wary that you may have to adjust those needles, but don't be looking for that adjustment. Just put it in, fire it up, and go and enjoy it. If the adjustment needs to be done, do it, but don't go looking for it. Anyway, hopefully I've helped you out. Whether you're watching this after Christmas and you've got your new car for Christmas, maybe you was expecting it or you wasn't expecting it. Or if you're watching this before Christmas, because this will go live, this video will go public week or so, 2 weeks maybe, before Christmas, to try and hopefully help some of you get some knowledge in you before Christmas Day, and maybe you might unwrap one. You never know. Excuse me, you never know. I've been drinking a lot of Nitro fuel lately, and it makes me quite hiccupy for some reason. Anyway, any questions about anything to do with Nitro RC, please comment. If you like this sort of thing, please subscribe, because the more of you stick around, the more I can help all of you. The end goal is to be able to have some kind of track where you can all come down with a little shop where you can all buy bits and bobs, and I'll just give you the best hobby possible, the best experience in a hobby. That is the end goal. So I did toy with an idea of having like a mobile van, like a mobile mechanic van for Nitro and RC, you know, go around the country repairing people's cars, but that's very far in the future. Whether I'll make it there, I don't know. But anyway, the more of you stick around, the better. Merry Christmas. I hope you get what you want for Christmas. I hope if you want an RC car, you get one. But remember, it ain't all about presents. It ain't all about money. It ain't all about what you get and what you don't get. It's about spending time. Well, if you're religious, it's about Jesus. But if otherwise, it's about spending time with your family. Yeah? So just enjoy each other. It doesn't matter what you get and what you don't get. Enjoy your family, and the ones that you haven't got anymore, just enjoy their memories. Okay, that's what it's all about. I'll catch you later on. Merry Christmas. Take care. I'll leave you with that, the beauty of her back.